to the kingdom of Israel. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.
The book of Psalms, chapter 16 and verse 11. It says, "Thou wilt show me the path of life." So we're on the path of life. The path of life leads to paradise. The path of life leads to glory, which the glory is the kingdom of heaven. And we're on that path of life. We're walking on the path of the tree of life to gain eternal life.
Consider the lilies, how they grow. They toil not, they spin not. And yet I say unto you that Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. If then God so clothed the grass, which is today in the field and tomorrow is cast into the oven, how much more will he clothe you, O ye of little faith? And seek not ye what ye shall eat or what ye shall drink, neither be ye of doubtful mind. For all these things do the nations of the world seek after, and your Father knoweth that ye have need of these things. But rather seek ye the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Sell that ye have, and give alms. Provide yourselves bags which wax not old, a treasure in the heavens that faileth not, where no thief approacheth, neither moth corrupteth. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.
To eternal peace and joy.
All right. Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah Bahashem, Rakakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers. And peace and blessing, salutation to the Hope Lake out there pushing his word in truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah Bahashem, Rakakadash, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the Hope Lake, the believers, the listeners whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem outside. Now, what I want to get into with this live stream, dealing with the devil at work, all right, the master of poison, and as the Lord has inquisition, as the scriptures speak about, the Lord has put out an inquisition of the wicked. Okay, and you go into the word inquisition, okay, is it's a severe investigation. So like it's a severe investigation. It's a very high intense scrutiny, okay, investigation of someone. And through the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Al Shah, the Lord, via the prophets, has opened up a very, all right, intense investigation and inquisition against the devil, man. You also have, what we call, truthers, okay, insiders that, are spilling the beans, and, certain alternative news and investigative journalists, okay, which that's probably on the uptick, you know. I wouldn't be surprised if that's on the uptick. Let's see. Investigative journalism. See, journalism. Uptick. Let's see. Well, yeah, especially the different, investigative journalists, which, with this guy here, he's been doing a pretty good job. He has a series, just dealing with, the food industry, man. Okay. And this devil, these Edomites. All right. Let me see here. There. Let me see. See some pull up. But these yep. So let's go here real quick. I had to look something up. Let's go here real quick. So I asked it real quick. I says is investigative journalism on the uptick. All right. It says investigative journalism is experiencing a paradoxical shift where financial support for traditional local newsroom is declining. Yeah, ain't nobody care about no goddamn CNN and Fox. Okay. You're completely misinformed, disinformed, enchanted, okay, confused if you still watch, all right, these major news outlets, for truth. Okay. It says, yet the actual impact, output, quality, and democratized reach of watchdog reporting are on the rise globally. Okay. Output, quality, impact, and it begins with the prophets. And you got, particular investigative journalists that, are on point, and we, listen and we extrapolate, what we can in the spirit and see what we have is the full picture. You see, we have the full scope of understanding because of the scriptures. Okay, because you can be a specialist and expert in this, or you can have all this experience in this field, and you used to be an insider, and you've seen things hands on. Okay, but we're able to tie everything, full circle through the scriptures. Okay, and give the complete understanding, for the edification of the body. Okay, so when you let's see, all right, said democratization via technology. Said while traditional newsrooms funding has suffered, independent reporters and cross-border teams now utilize digital tools, all right, and artificial intelligence to bypass legacy gatekeeper. All right, so even AI is working against the devil when it comes to alternative news, man. It says increased watchdog demand. The necessity for reliable deep dive reporting has never been more urgent. Investigative journalism is actively pivoting to hold massive tech companies, all right, and authoritarian regimes accountable for their impact on democratic societies, man. So these devils are being called out on every level, man. And it begins with the prophets, man. And people want, all right, a understanding of what's going on. That's why even, with investigative journalism and geopolitics and particular things, well, there's an uptick on these things, and people are now, creating revenue, okay, for having reliable news, okay, and having a true, inside scoop on what's happening and what's really going on outside of the propaganda, okay, in the echo chamber of these bought and paid for news stations, man. Okay, so just as the scripture said, all right, it's a spirit of inquisition in the earth, okay, against these devils, man. Okay, and it begins with the spirit of Yahweh Shema Shah, which is on the prophets. So you go here to the book of Second Ezra chapter 6, verse 19. It says, and it says, Matter of fact, I started at 18, 2nd Ezra chapter 6, verse 18. And it says, and it said, behold, the days come that I will begin to draw nigh and to visit them that dwell upon the earth. Okay, so we in the time of the Lord drawing nigh and get ready to visit the earth, and he's going to visit with judgment and mercy. And may we, you brothers, you few sisters, man, may the Lord visit us with mercy, man. But the Lord's getting ready to visit the earth with judgment and mercy, man. Okay, and it's going to be mostly judgment. It's going to be mercy for a small remnant of the nation of Israel, man. Okay, so we in those times, we see all the signs. That's one thing as well. The Lord gave us, all right, the happenings, what will be going on, the circumstances, the spirit in the earth, love of many waxing cold, wars, rumors of wars, pestilence, nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom. So the Lord gave us, the uproars of the people, the earthquakes, so the Lord gave us a sign, all right, that will, that will signal, his second coming, because the Lord is sending Yahushua to visit the earth, man. Okay, first he's sending plagues, all right, and then the ultimate visit is going to be via Yahushua. Okay, and it says, and we'll begin to make inquisition of them who they be that have hurt unjustly with their unrighteousness and with the affliction of Zion, all right, and when the affliction of Zion shall be fulfilled, man. So there's an inquisition being made on them, all right, which is Esau, Edom, what they be that hurt unjustly with their unrighteousness, man. And this is all the devil does, man. And when it says, and when the affliction of Zion shall be fulfilled, because we're at the end of our captivity, man. Okay, Esau was a tool of punishment for us in our captivity. And now, as our captivity is ended, there's no more need for a tool of punishment, man. And that's why this man is getting ready to be removed from power, man. He's going to have to answer for all his wickedness he's done within his rulership, man. Okay? So these are the times we're in when there's an inquisition being made about this devil, man. Okay? So let's go here. Let's get a few more precepts, and then we'll segue into the video. So let's go here, Revelation chapter 6. Okay, in verse 4. All right, it says, and there went out another red horse that was red, and power was given to him. And this is Esau. Okay, this red horse. All right, and this rider represents Esau and his power. Because a horse goes into power. And he that sitteth on this horse, okay, he's in the position of authority. This is Esau, man, and his power, and set thereon to take peace from the earth. All right, and all this man has done since he came into power is take peace from the earth, man. But this nigga is so wicked and crafty and lying. He has the earth thinking that he's, all right, the reason that the earth is civilized. He's the reason, for convenience. He's the reason for, it's him. His great science, and he just brought the earth so far, man. This man has completely taken the peace out of the earth, man. Okay, this man is responsible. When you look at every problem in the planet Earth, when you look at all of, the chaos, the dysfunction, the confusion, okay, the manipulation, the enchantments, the lewdness, the XEX trafficking, the PDF files, the alphabet community running rampant, gun violence, all right, is off the chain. Okay, STDs and cancers, and he's the source of it, man. Okay, he's the source of it. You see, but he built you an interstate, and and he's God. Okay, give you the interstate, a cell phone. Okay, DoorDash, and this nigga is the hero. Nah, man, it's the exact opposite, man. He's the problem. It says, and that they should kill one another, and there was given unto him a great sword, man. Okay, and this man has the earth in the uproar. Okay, people are confused. People are at war with each other on every level. Okay, and this man is behind the scenes orchestrating all the chaos that we see in the earth, man. Okay, down to poisoning the food supply, poisoning the air, the water. Okay, the data centers are bringing the sound pollution. Man, it's like, God damn. You see, and Yahushua gave us a rundown about this guy, man. time and time again. Okay, but he summed it up when you go to Revelation 10:10. It said the thief, all right, which is Esau. Okay, Yahushua was speaking of Esau, man. Okay, but for to steal and to kill and to destroy, I am come that they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly. Okay, so Esau, he's the thief, and all he does is steal, kill, and destroy. Okay, that's his existence. This is what Esau's existence revolves around: him stealing, killing, and destroying, and repeating the cycle over and over again. Okay, to enrich himself and to empower himself, man. Okay, but Yahushua is coming to bring back, an age of abundance, man, a forever age of abundance, man, beginning with the elect of Israel, man. Okay, first we're going to be abundance and peace. That's another thing. Even before we get to, the resources. Okay, because even, even before we get to immortality, well, there's going to be abundance of peace. Okay, because what would be the point of immortality if there's no peace, man? So we're going to get to enjoy abundance of peace in the earth under Yahushua, man. Okay, and then we're going to have abundant time. We're going to have immortality, so we're going to be abundant in time. Okay, and then the earth is going to give its strength. We're going to be abundant in resources, man. The complete opposite of what this nigga got, man. Because this technocracy, okay, would be a extremely oppressive, okay, tyrannical system, okay, of rationing, man. Okay, it will be a completely wicked, tyrannical system of rationing, man. Okay, where you will be rationing your bare minimum calories, and okay, the food is already lacking nutrients, man. Okay, he will have people in the state of right there starvation forever, man. If he had his way, man, he could keep people right on the edge of starvation forever, man. Okay, because even now, people you're eating more chemicals than anything, man. You see, this man have it to where you eating more chemicals than nutrients, man. Okay, and this is all the devil is about, causing people to fall, man. He's all about mischief. He's all about what type of wickedness he can do next. Okay, that's why when you even go here, Proverbs 4. Okay, then we'll segue this book of Proverbs chapter 4. In verse 16, it says, "For they sleep not, except they have done mischief." Man, these are the elites, man, because they're able, to have these counsels and come up, with this wickedness and execute and implement it in the earth. Okay, he's able to implement this wickedness, okay, that he comes up with. All right, these counsels that they're in on how to destroy and poison, he's able, all right, to implement it because the scripture says it's in the power of his hand. Okay, woe to those that work iniquity on their beds, man. Okay, it says, "And their sleep is taken away unless they cause some to fall." Okay, unless they cause some to fall, man. You see, so this man is all about, creating wickedness, creating more wickedness, and creating, more, all right, schemes and plots and traps. Okay, see what he can poison next. Okay, this is all this man is about, man. I say the devil, he's at work. Okay, the master of poison, man. So let's get this. All right, and this is fair use. I'm not making any monetary profits off this video for educational purposes only. Fair use. Now let's play this, man.
He who controls the food controls the people. That quote's widely credited to Henry Kissinger. Now, whether or not those were his exact words, what he wrote in a classified 1974 government document tells you everything you need to know about whether he believed it. And I want you to keep that in mind for the next 30 minutes, because What I'm about to show you isn't a series of accidents. It's not negligent. It's a system that worked exactly as it was designed to work. 4 chemicals, 4 scandals, 1 playbook over 80 years. The names change, the corporations change, the decades change, but the outcome never does. When you read a 1974 classified US government document where Kissinger's national security team recommends using food as a tool of population control, and then you watch the EPA dismiss 4 separate international cancer classifications across 4 decades, you stop calling it negligence and start to see it for what it really is. The people who were supposed to protect American families made a different choice. And they made sure you were the last one to. This is the second episode of my America High series. It's history, representing specific decisions, like people, money. We go right. Before we get into the chemicals, I want to show you 4 documents with 4 dates. Because with peace possible, here's the first document, 1943, the Rockefeller Mexican Agricultural Program. This is where it starts, not with a pesticide, but with a philosophy. The Rockefeller Foundation, working with the Mexican government, begins redesigning global agriculture from the ground. What it actually does, though, is replace the self-sufficient family farm, the farm that feeds itself, with one that's got to buy seeds, fertilizers, and pesticides from a handful of corporations every single season. So you don't own your food supplies anymore. You rent them. So history, that was the design. Now here's the second document. 1958, the grass loophole. Congress passes the Food Additives Amendment, and buried inside it is one of the most consequential sentences in the history of American food. Chemical companies can now self-certify their own ingredients as safe. Go back and watch my first episode for a full breakdown on that one. The burden of proof was reversed. Chemicals were allowed until they're proven harmful, not proven safe before entry. Now that's the legal door that's been left open for them to come on. Everything you're about to hear walks straight through that door. And here's the third document, 1974, NSSM 200, the Kissinger Report. This is the National Security Study Memorandum 200, completed December 10th, 1974, classified and then declassified in 1989, and then publicly available in 1990. Adopted as policy guidance by President Ford via NSDM 314 in 1975. This isn't a theory, it's a significant document. And what does it say? Well, listen to this. It recommends using food as a tool of geopolitical control. It argues that population growth in developing nations is a threat to U.S. national security and economic interests, and that controlling the food supply is one of the mechanisms for managing that threat. Remember, this isn't a...
This man said managing food is part of national security. Goddamn devil, man. So here it is. You have this loophole called grass, all right, which is generally recognized as safe. So let's say stuff like salt, okay, pepper, okay. If you add that to a food product, well, that's automatically FDA approved because it's generally recognized as safe, okay. But you can create chemicals, okay. Let's say Nabisco. Nabisco can hire scientists to create chemicals, and those scientists say, well, look, these chemicals are under the banner of grass. You know, they're generally recognized as safe. Okay, so those new chemicals can go through their loophole and don't have to get scrutinized by the FDA because they fall under the banner of GRAS, generally recognized as safe. That's how you get your yellow 5, your red 40, the shit you can't pronounce, these big long names. Okay, and then you had this devil Kissinger, which is the same one that brokered the deal with the petrodollar. That's a super demon, that nigga there, man. Okay, but he's saying that look, the government need to manipulate and control the food supply to keep the population down for national security. And then they go with that national security shit. You know, this man's a goddamn devil, man. He's been doing this a long time, man, and the light is really being shed on this guy, man. So let's play some more.
Conspiracy theory. This is a declassified government document. It's in black and white. You can read it yourself. And the final document of the four, 2015, Agenda 2030. 193 nations adopt a framework calling for the transformation of global food systems under coordinated international governance. The framework is backed and actively funded by some of the most powerful private institutions on earth. The Gates Foundation, the world's largest private charitable foundation run by Bill Gates himself, has contributed billions to global food and agriculture programs tied directly to this agenda. The Rockefeller Foundation, the century-old dynasty that funded the original shift to chemical-dependent farming back in 1943, is back at the table. The World Economic Forum, the annual gathering of the world's wealthiest CEOs, heads of states, and global power brokers in Davos, Switzerland, has made food system transformation one of its flagship initiatives. The world's largest food and beverage company, Cargill, controllers of the global grain supply, and Unilever, which manufactures the food, cleaning, and personal care products found in the homes of 3.4 billion people worldwide. These are not charities or governments. They're entities that grow it, process it, package it, and sell it to you. And they all sat down together to design what they're calling the future of food. 70 same direction. Less control in your hands, more control in theirs. Now, let me show you how it plays out on the ground, because now we get into the playbook. But before I tell you once you see it, you can't unsee it. I call it the pesticide playbook. There's 5 steps used 4 times across 80 years, and it goes like this. Step 1. An independent scientist, someone with no financial ties to the company making the chemical, finds evidence that the chemical causes harm to human health, to animals, or to the environment. Manufacture and profits from that chemical, funds its own counter studies designed to cast doubt on the independent findings. And then they go after the scientist, not their data, the person, the reputation, their career, their funding, their mental stability. Scientists, the first thing that they think is, can we person? Step 3, the regulatory agency gets involved. In America, that's the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. Their one job is to protect you from dangerous chemicals in your food and water. So what do? Well, they look at the independent science, they look at the industry science, and they choose the industry science, not because it's more accurate, but because the chemical companies have lobbyists in Washington and their former executive revolving door. And it means the fox is guarding the hen house. Step 4.
All right, so let's go into, these certain government agencies that's supposed to be regulating the food. So just to go into the revolving door. So let's say Kraft, food company. All right, Kraft. All right, well, here it is. They're executive. All right, you have these executives that used to work at Kraft. Now they're on the board at the FDA. Okay. So the same people that are executive and, high ranking, management, okay, and executives on all these different food companies, Well, they go and work for the FDA, the USDA, the EPA. Okay, so everything that these companies want to do, they just turn the blind eye. They don't care about they're not regulating, okay, these companies, man, these corporations. All right, and they'll do something every now and then to make it seem as if they're really doing their job. Now they might crack down on the mom and pop. You might see the FDA, all right, pull up on the mom and pop spot, all right, a random mom and pop spot, and go to writing regulations and shutting things down and this code, this, and you violated this code. But they're not going to do Nabisco like that. They're not going to do Kellogg like that. They're not going to do Kraft like that. They're not going to do, all right, what is it, Coca-Cola. They're not going to do them like that. Okay, but they'll come to a mom and pop shop, and then be this super strict, government, bureaucracy, okay, as if this is what they're all about. No, okay, these major corporations, all right, they finance, all right, these bureaucracies, man. Okay, and then these people that work for these bureaucracies, they get kickbacks. The profits, they got certain profit shares in these certain companies, man. It's just one big corrupt, all right, shit show, basically, man. Okay, now, because when you go into this real quick, because when you look at what these companies are supposed to do and what they actually do, it's like they shouldn't even exist. Okay, you go to the USDA, all right. All right, what does the USDA actually do? The USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, is a federal executive agency responsible for developing and executing policy on farming, agriculture, forestry, and food. It is a core mission. Its core mission is to support farmers. Okay, which is something they haven't done. Its core mission is to support farmers, ensure a safe food production, protect natural resources, manage rural infrastructure. So what's up with the data centers? If you're supposed to protect natural resources, well, the data center should be a no-go. Okay, ensure safe food production. Well, why are all the food being pumped with chemicals? Okay, steroids. You see, hormones. You see, manage rural infrastructure and administer domestic and international nutrition assistance programs. So the USDA, what does it do real time? Okay, nothing. You see, and now they are completely irrelevant. They've been irrelevant for a while, but now they're completely irrelevant. As this devil is rolling out this technocracy. So let's go to the FDA. All right, what does the FDA do? It says, so what does the FDA do? It says the FDA, all right, the Food and Drug Administration, is a federal agency responsible for protecting public health by ensuring the safety, efficiency, and security of human and veterinary drugs, biological products, medical devices, our nation's food supply. Well, goddamn. Okay, and America has the most chemicals in their food by far. Okay, let's see. So added additives and chemical. Let's see. And chemical. Supply. See what it gives us. Finish reading with the So it said the FDA, all right, the Food and Drug Administration, the federal agency responsible for protecting public health, all right, by ensuring the safety, all right, efficiency and security of human and veterinary drugs, biological products, medical devices, and our nation's food supply, cosmetics, and just poison in the cosmetics, okay, and products that emit radiation. It said it also regulates the manufacturing, marketing, and distribution of tobacco products. Okay, so it allows destruction. Okay, all this stuff can pass through through this loophole called GRAS, generally recognized as safe. Okay, to where these companies can hire their own scientists to come up with chemicals, okay, and certified as GRAS, generally recognized as safe, and pass it through into the food supply, man. Okay, it says evaluating the safety. It said product reviews and approval, evaluating the safety, quality, effectiveness, and new, all right, medications. All right, the juice. Okay, was the juice was a death shot, man. Okay, Esau was able to turn the earth, all right, to a death count. FDA approved, man. It says the medical devices before they can be consoled to consumers, man. Okay, so the FDA does nothing. All right, something that's FDA approved don't mean a goddamn thing. Okay, and this is not medical, all right, information. Okay, just reporting the facts, man. Okay, and these are the facts. All right, this is on your Google. You see, and it's a better chance of us getting strikes and videos taken down for speaking on it than, all right, these people actually regulate the food supply, man. So real quick, I asked, okay, does America allow the most additives and chemicals, all right, in its food supply? It said that the United States allows over 10,000 chemicals and additives in its food supply. 10,000, more than almost any other country, including Canada, the UK, and the EU. The US relies on the uniquely lenient regulatory framework, resulting in hundreds more additives being used domestically compared to other major nations. Okay? The devil, man. Everything is amplified in Babylon the Great. It says a cross-national study revealed that the U.S. food products contain the highest average number of additives among 8 analyzed countries. The U.S. had double the average number of additives found in Italy, all right, and 62 more than Germany. Industry experts estimate that at least 950 more additives are used in U.S. foods than are legally permitted in the European Union, man. It's a goddamn shame. Okay? And this is Babylon the Great, man. You know, so the greatness in Babylon, all right, will be on another scale. Okay, and then if you go into, okay, well, you went into it before, go into again, these niggas don't do nothing. Okay, trash. All right, it said, what is the job of the EPA? Yeah, so you go to the EPA, you looked it up before, just go into it again to show you that they don't do nothing, man. All right, so the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, is a federal agency responsible for safeguarding human health and the environmental, all right, and the environment by enforcing laws that ensure Americans have access to clean air, safe drinking water, and uncontaminated land, man. Okay, showing you that they don't do neither. All right, they do it just for a show. Okay, like I say, they'll come to a small operation and, you know, blowing the whistle and writing tickets and citations, you know, make a big news story out of it, man. But ultimately, they don't do a goddamn thing, man. Okay, that's why you have data centers galore. All right, violating everything that the EPA stand for. These food companies, they violate everything that the FDA and the USDA supposed to stand for, man. Okay, and we're gonna get into some more. It only gets worse, man, as he gets more into it. Okay, so let's play some more.
Four, Europe looks at the same independent science and reaches a different every single day. Step 5, America dismisses Europe's findings. Americans keep consuming it for years, sometimes decades, and then eventually the lawsuits start. thousands of sick people, many of them dying, who can prove that this chemical then developed. After years and years of fighting, they agree to pay out billions of dollars to the victims to make the cases go away. But here's the part that should make your blood. Legally, on the record, they never did anything wrong. The money changes hands, the victims are silenced, and the chemical often stays on the market. That's the playbook. And here's the number I want you to be aware of. Of nations, the U.S. uses approximately 20 to 24% of the world's pesticides, while representing 4% of the world's population. The poison.
Crazy work.
This next part is what I want you to think about through every story you're about to hear, because who spent the last 50 years in natural health, and I asked her what she thought the real target was.
Yeah, well, there's the population control program, which makes sense, I'm sure, to you. I mean, it's for increasing our risk of cancer and other crimes. It's not that they're attacking. I don't think people really understand. They're attacking cognitive abilities in a way that could be nothing less than intentional targeting. What I'm talking about, Parkinson's disease, effects on our mood like anxiety and depression, raising our risk for other chronic diseases like heart disease, asthma, and cancer. I mean, for those that simply see Agenda 2030 as a scheme for depopulation, I think that you'd be missing how intricate and detailed some of these attacks actually are. I don't think the goal is simply depopulation. They want to depopulate and disarm those who have the presence of mind and know how to fight, like you and I. Everything I know about this agenda has played. It's indicating that they want to target older individuals first, and this could be for a variety of reasons. But I believe it's because the younger generations have already been conditioned to comply, so that tendency to resist or question or even be aware that something's very wrong, it eludes most of them. And they want a new generation made up of TikTok robots seeking instant gratification. They want to populate these 15-minute cities talking about with people who are incapable of recognizing injustice. Essentially those that are too naive to think for themselves.
Now let me show you the first time the playbook ran. In 1939, Swiss chemist Paul Mueller discovers that a synthetic pesticide called DDT is extraordinarily effective at killing insects. It works by attacking their nervous system. But here's the problem. It does not stay in the insect. It moves up the food chain. It accumulates in the fat tissues of animals and humans. It soaks into the soil, it runs into the water, and eventually it ends up inside the human body. The Swiss patent follows in 1940. By 1942, it's patented. In 1958, Paul Mueller wins the Nobel Prize. The government calls DDT a miracle. The USDA calls it safe.
Because we're fighting a total war, our forces must be marshaled against every enemy, unseen as well as seen, in every place, all of the time. Millions of insects constitute an important part of our foes, in their way as militant as the Axis. Their menace multiplies as they multiply. Because in some areas more men were being incapacitated from action by insect-borne diseases than by battle casualties, a search for a more powerful insecticide than had previously been known was imperative. The answer to the quest for a poison to eradicate the insects which threaten the morale, health, and military efficiency of our troops was found in DDT.
1945 to 1960s, DDT is getting sprayed on homes, schools, farms, and children. Not metaphorically, literally on children in schools at public events. Aerial spraying over neighborhoods. The government's telling the public there's nothing to worry about. 1962, a marine biologist named Rachel Carson publishes a book called Silent Spring. She documents the devastation that DDT is causing on bird population. Careful, she's methodical, and she's meticulous. So the chemical industry responds by spending what would be millions of dollars in today's money to absolutely destroy her. They call her hysterical. They call her a communist. They call her unscientific. Internal memos from the chemical companies documented this coordinated smear campaign. They're part of the public record. She's a woman who told the truth, and the people who were profiting from the lie came after her with everything they had. 1972, 10 years after Silent Spring, 10 years, DDT didn't fix. Present day, DDT metabolites, the chemical breakdown products of DDT, are still found in the blood of Americans born decades after the ban. It passes from mother to child in the womb. The chemical outlasted the law that was supposed to stop it. Step 1 through 5. This is the first time. That's the pesticide playbook. 1965, Dow Chemical introduces chlorpyrifos to the American market. Now, I want to tell you exactly what chlorpyrifos is. It belongs to a class of chemistry called organophosphates. That same class of chemistry produced the nerve agents developed during World War II, sarin, tabun, and the compounds that make soldiers collapse within seconds of exposure. The pesticide on your vegetables and the nerve agent in a chemical weapon come from the same branch of the same chemistry tree. So Dow gets it approved for use on food. Yes, food. 1996, Congress passes the Food Quality Protection Act. It instructs the EPA to reassess the safety of chlorpyrifos. A 20-year review begins. 20 years. Your children grew up and had children of their own in the time that it took the EPA to look at this. 2012, EPA scientists working alongside researchers at Columbia University find direct links between chlorpyrifos exposure and reduced IQ in children. It's not in rats. It's not in some lab simulation. It's in children.
And the food is meant to dumb you down, not to just destroy you, physically, but mentally, man. It's meant to dumb you down. And this man puts chemicals in foods that he used for explosives, man. Okay, and then it took the EPA 20 years to look at. Okay, but while they're looking at it, it's still in use because the way that grass work is something generally recognized as safe. Well, it can still be used until the research, that they approve of, because you can have independent research to show that this is harmful, but then you have the research from the industry scientists that are always going to say, well, it's not harmful, and they're going to go the FDA, the EPA, the USDA, they're always going to go with the industry scientists. Okay, because remember, the people that work at these government agencies used to work at these food companies, man. Okay, they used to work for these food companies. So they're going to side with these, industry scientists, man. Okay, they're going to always say that, look, these things are safe. You see? And then it's 2012, and finally they made the connection, something that's been in the food since 1965, man. Okay, the devil at work.
Kids, lower IQs from a chemical that was already on your food. 2016, EPA scientists formally conclude there's no safe level of chlorpyrifos for children. None. Zero. They write it up. They recommend the ban. They did their jobs, and then they waited. On March 9th, 2017, Scott Pruitt, the EPA administrator appointed by President Trump, sits down privately with Andrew Liveris, the CEO of Dow Chemical, the company that makes chlorpyrifos. The meeting lasts about 30 minutes. 20 days later, on March 29th, Pruitt announces that the EPA will not ban chlorpyrifos. His own agency's scientists had told him that there was no safe level of exposure for children. He looked at that finding, walked into the meeting, and came out on the other side having made a different choice. And Dow Chemical had donated $1 million to President Trump's inauguration fund just weeks before. 2021, a federal appeals court, not Congress, not the EPA, a court orders the EPA to ban chlorpyrifos within 60 days. Because the agency had refused to act on its own scientists' findings for so long, a judge had to step in and do it for them. 56 years. From the day chlorpyrifos was introduced to the American farms in 1965 to the day that a court finally forced it off the market, 56 years. But the story isn't over. In 2023, a different federal court reversed that ban, and it's still in use today. The same pesticide playbook, the second time. 1958, a Swiss chemical company called Ciba-Geigy introduces a herbicide called atrazine, weeds. Now, most Americans have never heard of Ciba-Geigy, but their products have been on American farms for decades. Ciba-Geigy would later merge with another chemical giant and rebrand itself as Syngenta, which is the name that you're going to hear in the courtroom documents. But the company that created atrazine and the company that fought to keep it on the market are the same company, just with a newer, cleaner name. It becomes the second most widely used herbicide in the United States behind only glyphosate. It's used mostly on corn, but it runs off into rivers, streams, and groundwater. It ends up in the tap water of tens of millions of Americans. In the early 2000s, a scientist at UC Berkeley named Dr. Tyrone Hayes conducts independent research on atrazine. What he finds is this: atrazine chemically castrates male frogs at concentrations found in American tap water, not in a laboratory with extreme doses, at levels already present in the water people are drinking. Syngenta's response isn't to conduct safety studies. Their response, documented in internal emails obtained through litigation, emails that are now on public record, is to coordinate a campaign to discredit Hayes personally, to monitor his movements, and attempt to buy his silence. They tried to pay him to stop talking, yet he didn't stop. Instead, he kept talking. He kept publishing. He kept showing up at conferences. He kept giving interviews. He kept standing in front of audiences and saying the same thing that he had always said. The data is the data. A scientist from South Carolina, the first in his family to go to college, up against one of the most powerful chemical corporations on earth, and he wouldn't sit back down. Syngenta spent years and millions of dollars trying to make him go away. He's still talking today. 2004, the European Union bans atrazine. 2006, the EPA reviews atrazine. It declines to ban it, citing industry-funded studies over Hayes' independent findings. The NRDC, the National Resources Defense Council, a nonprofit environmental law organization, forces the EPA to publicly acknowledge that atrazine is contaminating drinking water supplies across the Midwest. It's drinking water, the tap water that's coming out of the faucet in people's homes. November 2025, the International Agency for Research on Cancer, the IARC, classifies atrazine as a Group 2A probable human carcinogen. Group 2A means the evidence in humans is strong enough to raise serious concern, but not yet definitive enough to call it a confirmed cause of cancer. It's one step below the highest classification. The fine journals published unless the science behind it has been reviewed and scrutinized by other experts. It's not some fringe study. This is the global scientific establishment putting atrazine on a list of things that probably cause cancer in people. The EPA's response is to dismiss the IARC classification. Atrazine is still legal in the United States. It's still being sprayed. It's the pesticide playbook. It's the third time. So you already know how this story goes. 1974, Monsanto introduces Roundup. Monsanto is a chemical company founded in 1901. Over the decades, it's made pesticides, industrial chemicals, and Agent Orange. By the 1970s, it's turned its attention to agriculture. So Roundup is its new weed killer, and the active ingredient is glyphosate. So glyphosate works by blocking a process inside plants they need to survive. It does not target one type of weed. It kills almost any plant that it touches. You spray it on a field and everything green dies, except starting in the 1990s, for the crops that Monsanto has engineered in its own laboratory, spray it on a field and everything green dies, except for the crops that Monsanto has engineered in its own laboratory to survive it in the 90s. Crops that come with a patent. Crops that farmers must buy from Monsanto every single year. 1996. Roundup Ready GMO crops arrive. GMO stands for genetically modified organism. These are crops that have been engineered in a laboratory to survive being sprayed with Roundup. Every other plant in the field dies. The GMO crop doesn't. So farmers who plant them have to buy Monsanto's seeds fresh from the company every single season. They are legally prohibited by contract from saving their own seeds. Let that sink in for a moment. Because for all of human history going back thousands of years, farmers saved seeds. You harvest your crop, you set aside your best seeds, you plant them again next spring. That's how farming works. That's how it's always worked. Monsanto looked at that and said, not anymore. In 1998, a canola farmer named Percy Schmeiser in Canada found Roundup Ready plants growing on his land. He says that they ballooned from a neighbor's field. Monsanto sued him anyway. The case went all the way to the Supreme Court of Canada. You know, never guess it. Percy Schmeiser had farmed that land for 50 years. He was in his late 60s. Monsanto had been in the seed business for 2015. The IARC classifies glyphosate as a Group 2A probable human carcinogen, linking it to non-Hodgkin lymphoma. Several regulatory agencies, including the EPA and the World Health Organization's own JMPR, the Joint Meeting on Pesticide Residues, the expert panel the World Health Organization uses to evaluate whether pesticide levels in food are safe, have disagreed with the IARC finding. Here's why that makes what happens next more damning. 2017, the EPA sides with Monsanto, declares glyphosate not likely carcinogenic to humans. Then the Monsanto papers come out. Internal documents released in litigation show that Monsanto ghost wrote scientific studies and paid academics to put their names on them, that they coordinated directly with EPA officials to block independent reviews, that they knew what their product might be doing and they buried it. And then the lawsuits came. 2020 through to present. Bayer, which acquired Monsanto in 2018, has paid over $10 billion in glyphosate cancer settlements. A proposed additional settlement of $7.25 billion was announced in February 2026, but the company admits no wrongdoing. 2022, glyphosates detected in the urine of more than 80% of Americans tested, including children. Exposures increased 500% since Roundup Ready crops were introduced in 96. And then, while the lawsuits were still being settled, something else happened. An executive order was signed at the White House. The title, Promoting the National Defense by Ensuring an Adequate Supply of Glyphosate-Based Herbicides. They tied glyphosate to national security, not to protect you, to protect the companies that make it. At the same time,
So at this point, man, Esau just do what the hell he want to do. You know, he just do what he want to do now. You know, your Congress don't do nothing for you. Okay, your judges, your Supreme Court judge, everyone that you so-called vote for do nothing for you. They all work for the corporation. Okay, elected officials, non-elected officials, and these companies make tens of billions of dollars a year. So they can set aside $10 billion over, you know, a few decades to pay out in lawsuits to make it seem as if, you know, there's some type of compassion, or, you know, and that settles, because if they pay these lawsuits out, it makes it seem that, you know, justice is working. You know, there is justice against big corporation. No. And then the money they pay out, they get it right back from the same people. Okay? Because it's taxpayer money they pay for a lot of these corporations to stay afloat. Okay? And when you buy most of these products, they own most of these products that, you know, people buy on a daily basis. So the money comes right back to them. Okay? Our system works. So there's corruption at every level, man. All right? And you're being legally poisoned in the good old United States of America. Okay, it's legal for these major corporations to poison you. Okay, it's legal. You see, and this is a country you people love. Let's play a little more.
A Republican House Farm Bill was moving through Congress that would make it illegal for local governments to warn their own residents about the dangers of pesticides. Think about that. Not just refusing to ban it, but making it illegal to warn people about it. The same pesticide playbook, the fourth time. No consequences, no end, but now immunity. The old system didn't collapse, it got upgraded. 2021. Bill Gates is confirmed as the largest private farmland owner in the United States, approximately 270,000 acres across 17 to 19 states, depending on the year of the accounting. So let's talk about what Gates is actually doing, because this is where it gets really interesting. His key investments include Impossible Foods, Beyond Meat, and Appeal Sciences. Appeal is a fruit coating that has been approved for use on USDA organic produce. It can't be washed off. Let that sink in. It's a coating on your organic apple that you can't remove, approved by the same system that's supposed to protect you. And then there's AGRA, the Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa, co-funded by the Gates Foundation and the Rockefeller Foundation. Their stated goal: to end hunger in Africa. Right. Feed the poor. Very noble. Except the Oakland Institute, which has studied this for years, documented that the AGRA has actually increased food insecurity in several African nations, not decreased it, but increased it by pushing chemical-dependent patented seed systems onto subsistence farmers who were already feeding themselves just fine. So Gates and the AGRA dispute those findings. Of course they do. And there's this. Gates is the second largest funder of the World Health Organization on the planet Earth, behind only the United States government. So the same man that's investing in your food supply also has enormous influence over global health policy. His public message is that he wants to replace chemical agriculture with lab-grown food and patented seed systems. A cleaner future, a safer future. His critics say something very different, though. They say this is not an alternative to the broken system. It's more a complete version of it. It's the same dependency model, the same centralized control, just newer patents and a much friendlier face. Now, I want to bring you back to where we started. The four documents: the Rockefeller Playbook from 1943, the Grass Loophole from 58, the Kissinger Report from 1974, Agenda 2030 from 2015. Everything you just watched: DDT, chlorpyrifos, atrazine, glyphosate, and now Gates buying the land. It all fits inside those four documents. It's not a series of regulatory failures. This isn't incompetence or negligence. This is a system that's working exactly as it was designed. So the next time you walk into a grocery store and you can't afford real food, but that processed stuff is really cheap, you now know how we got there. That price gap wasn't an accident. The next time you hear that a chemical has been in our food supply for 30 years and the EPA is just now getting around to reviewing it, you now know why. That delay was built in. Health claim on the label and a patent behind it. You now know whose hands it came from and what model it was built on. The next time a scientist gets ignored, discredited, or silenced for publishing data that inconvenience.
This nigga gotta get out of here, man. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And if you don't see Esau Edom as the problem on the planet Earth, because we can talk about the byproduct, okay, of what the devil is doing, okay, but the problem on the planet Earth is Esau Edom, man. So let's get a few precepts, all right, and close out, man. I really want to put that out there, just show you how these devils get down, man. The devil is at work, man, and see, it's led to this new world order way because he wants complete control of the food system, okay, and he's trying to rewrite how food is created because this is him being at war with the Most High, because he's at war with the natural way. Because everything in the beginning was created, okay, for a particular purpose, all right, within the wisdom of Yahweh Bashim Al Shai. Everything has its purpose, everything has its order, All right, and everything was meant to complement each other. When you go into creation, you see this man is at war with creation, and he does nothing but disturb what's already right, what's already good. Okay, you don't have to change anything in Genesis, man, that was already created. You just have to manage it right, from people to animals to agriculture to the earth and the environment. It just has to be managed in righteousness. Okay, it has to be managed in wisdom. You see, but this devil, he does the exact opposite, and he goes to war with the earth, man. He completely disrupts the natural way of everything, man. Okay, now this is Sirach 42. Okay, and on 21 it says, "He have garnished the excellent works of his wisdom, and he is from everlasting to everlasting." The Most High got this thing figured out. The Most High is from everlasting to everlasting. You don't think he got vegetation figured out? Okay, you think he had that figured out in the beginning? Okay, man and woman. You don't think he had these things figured out in the beginning? Absolutely. Okay, so who's the problem? Esau. This nigga is the problem, man. Okay, Most High had all these things figured out in the beginning. You see, creation was tawab, agreeable, pleasurable, prosperous. You see, and it says, "Unto him may nothing be added, neither can he be diminished, and he have no need of any counselor." Man, but you got this nigga walking around in the lab coat like he counseling the Most High on creation, like he can add and take away and do this and that, and it's better. And see, it don't got no siege now, create something that kill everything, but then he'll create something that survives the chemical that he's created. Okay, complete wickedness, man. Complete madman on the loose, man. Okay, then you jump down, all right, to verse 22. Says, "Oh, how desirable are all his works, and that a man may even seek to a spark." Man, that we haven't even discovered just all the natural things that the Lord has in the earth for us to enjoy, man. We haven't even began. We only at the tip of the iceberg, with the things we learn and come up on in the truth, man. We're at the tip of the iceberg. We only seen the spark of the things that the Lord has for us to enjoy in the earth, man. All things live and remain forever for all uses, and they are all obedient. All things are double one against another, and he have made nothing imperfect, man. Nothing is made imperfect. Okay? You see? Everything has its purpose, everything has its order, everything has its glory, everything complements each other, man. This devil is the only thing that's off in the planet Earth, and this is why he's going to be exterminated, man. Let's go here. That's why he has an extermination day. Okay? Most High gonna pesticide his ass, man. Okay? Let's get this real quick. Revelation 11 and 18. All right, this is the book of Revelation, chapter 11, verse 18. It says, "And the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, in the time of the dead that they should be judged, and that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants, the prophets, all right, and the saints, and them that fear thy name, small and great, and that thou shouldest destroy them which destroy the earth," man. This man is the destroyer of earth. Okay, that's his title, the destroyer of earth, the destroyer of life, man. Okay, he's the weed in the garden, man. Okay, that needs to be removed. Okay, so yeah, we come to the time now, all right, where the Lord's getting ready to reward, his servants, the elect, okay, which are going to be joint heirs with Yahweh Shai in righteousness, okay, and which is going to get the earth back on track, man. See, the elect is coming to get the earth back on track. That's what we're assigned with first, is getting the earth back together, man. It begins with getting it, removing this nigga from all authority, putting him in captivity, man. Okay, that's the first phase, because just him leaving the earth alone, the earth is going to start healing itself, man. Okay, just him being removed from power is going to begin the process of the earth being healed, man. So Lord will, all right, you brothers, all right, and you few sisters edified once again. We give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah Bahashem, and Kakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS, who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers. And peace and blessing salutations to the whole Philip Solomon.